Should you tell your child you are disappointed in them? What do you think? I'm Nicholeen Peck. I'm a parenting expert, and today we are talking about how you should communicate disappointment to your children, and if you should at all. The way a parent communicates disappointment to their child is a key factor on if that child will continue to feel bonded to the parent during the correction or if they will disconnect from the parent during the correction. The whole point of doing a correction is to bring the child closer to you, to teach them and to instruct them going in a good direction. It is totally okay to show disappointment to a child so long as you keep a few rules in mind. If you are wildly showing your child disappointment, if you use emotion and belittle them and make them feel bad, then you're going to damage your relationship. They're not going to feel safe around you and they will disconnect from you. But if you do it correctly, you can show your child that you are disappointed and it can be a productive thing for them. It's okay for them to know you're a person and that you might have a feeling of disappointment or there is something that they need to change. Life isn't always a bed of roses, but you do need to do it in a way that will be effective and that will touch their hearts instead of just make them retreat in fear. I'm going to share with you 4 rules for how to show your child disappointment in a way that is not going to damage their spirits or their connection to you. Rule number 1 is your relationship quality matters. If I could just put like a huge star on this one, your relationship quality matters. If you do not have your relationship where it needs to be, then the children are not going to accept your corrections and they're not going to accept your disapproval in a productive way, which means they're wasted words and wasted discussions. In fact, the children will probably just look at those discussions as if they're just a lecture and they'll just tune you out. If your child does not have a quality relationship with you, then you've got to start by creating a quality relationship first. I have other videos on this channel about making good relationships with your children, so go and look at those other videos to help develop this quality relationship that you absolutely must have in order to show your child that you are disappointed in something that they did. Rule number 2, when you tell your child something is disappointing to you, that also matters. So there are certain times when it's not a good time to tell someone that something was disappointing to you. For instance, in the very moment when a child says something to somebody else that you feel like might not have shown much concern, they're standing right there in front of their friend, that is not the good time. So choosing the time really does matter. In fact, there are times that you can discuss things that are disappointing or need corrections that are way more productive than those times in front of everybody else. That doesn't mean you can't ever correct in front of other people. In fact, my children were definitely secure enough to be corrected in front of other people, and I did do it frequently. But I did also keep in mind that if I wanted to touch their hearts and their minds, and if we wanted to have a connective moment, then I needed to do it at a time when it was just us and we could have a heart-to-heart about the situation. So if there is something that is disappointing to you, try to remember that you don't need to take it personal and you can pick the right time to talk to the child. When you have time to look in each other's eyes, feel love for each other, and come up with a plan for how to solve the issue. How you communicate definitely matters. There are certain ways of communication that are not productive. Words, tone, and action can all show disappointment. The best type of communication is the type that's calm, honest, open, loving, not manipulative. So sometimes when we're being honest, we get emotionally manipulative. When I say honest, I mean the type of honest that is presented in a way that is not an attack, but is an honest assessment, an open conversation. The way that we discuss with our children needs to feel safe and empowering. It needs to feel like this conversation is okay. I'm not taking anything personally. Nothing you could tell me would shock me. So if you can keep that kind of tone, then your child will feel much more more connected to you if you have to tell them you are disappointed about something that they did. Now, there's also a better way to do a correction. There's certain ways that I teach parents to correct their children. I call it an effective correction. An effective correction is more of a description of what happened, what should have happened, what they earned, and then practices doing things the right way. Then it is a description of their emotions or how they felt about a certain circumstance. This doesn't mean we can't ever share with our children how we feel. We can, but we need to do it in a way that doesn't feel manipulative and definitely is done at the right time. Rule number 4, plan for how to discuss the situation and be okay. When I was a young girl, every time my parents told me I did something wrong, I would get an attitude problem. I was not okay. And that's because our relationship was not where it needed to be. That story is on a different video, but let me just say something. In order to fix the relationship problem with my parents, I had to choose to be okay first. So this can be a first step or a last step. If a person does not choose to be okay, then they can't communicate in a deep and connective way with their parents. And that's vital to having the type of communication that you can share your open feelings and disappointments about things your children might do. So, you can choose to say okay and be okay. Being okay is definitely the hardest part. Now let's look at this whole formula. So, rule number 1 is your relationship quality matters. If you have a good relationship built on mutual respect and understanding, now respect meaning they understand you're the teacher, you understand they're the learner, and you're both doing your job of teaching and learning. You're following your roles. If you have that type of a relationship and you can communicate well and you both think the best of each other, then when you have to talk about something, it's going to be okay. Especially if you take the time to look in the person's eyes, drawing upon that strong relationship, then you can talk about anything. And if you do it in a way that is not attacking, but in a way that is understanding, in a way that is supportive, kind, yet firm sometimes, and you do it with calmness, and they listen with calmness, knowing that they care about their relationship with you, then you'll be able to talk about anything, literally anything. Many people want to become best friends with their children. That's a pretty decent goal, but it doesn't ever happen if the roles aren't in the right place. If you can't share with a child a correction or a disappointment and talk about an issue that needs to be solved, then that relationship is not going to lead to best friends. My children and I are best friends. The reason why we're best friends is because we put our roles in the right place. When your roles are healthy, then you can conquer any problem that is put in front of your relationship. Years ago, I wrote the book I'm most known for called Parenting a House United. And people kept asking me questions that I realized related to their roles in the family. So I wrote this book called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. You can find this book on teachingselfgovernment.com. Parents and children read this book together and discuss their roles in the family so that they can better improve their relationships and their communications. You see a family in this book go from having their roles out of place and not communicating effectively to fixing all of the problems in their relationship. Some of the ways that we plan in our family to be calm is by having certain skills like disagreeing appropriately and accepting no answers, following instructions. There are 4 basic skills that we learn as a family. I would like to give you a special gift to help you have more understanding of skills and calmness. This gift is called the Calm Parenting Toolkit. So go down to the description below and click the Calm Parenting Toolkit so that you can get started on more calmness, better relationships, better communication, and self-government in your family.